So I was stuck in a black void with a noose around my neck, and I figured that a school of rock could get me out of a bad situation. Maybe it could help me out again. So I reached out, but there was nothing, because that show was gone. I wasn't on that stage anymore. If anything, I was probably on the stage of Phantom of the Opera. I was sort of in that reality, which Alex Brightman has a very small interaction with. He's never been in the show. He's been in an Andrew Lloyd Webber show, but it wasn't really meshing well with me. So that was out. So I decided to look into my head again and go back to that hallway. So I'm walking down the hallway, and most of the doors are locked. School of Rock was open because I'd seen the show. Heck, I'd been in the show. So that was available. But even that wasn't there. I keep walking down the hallway, and at the end of the hall, to the right side, there are two doors. One, I just had a feeling had Beetlejuice behind it, and I wondered how much power would be there. And I knew that would be the thing to help me get out of this. But I hadn't seen it. It was locked. The door next to it, though, that was open. Well, it wasn't open, but it didn't have a padlock on it. So I reached for it, but I was hesitant because I could hear something. On the other side of that door was crying. There were cries, and there were shouts, and there was screams, and a lot of swear words. And a part of me was worried about what I would find there. Part of me was probably scared. But there was nothing else available to me. There was nothing else to do. So I opened it. And all of a sudden, a flood of this emotion came towards me. It was confusion, it was fear, it was despair, it was this overwhelming uncertainty. And it took me a while to realize that this wasn't a musical, it wasn't a show, this was the fans. Something was happening in the world that I had no idea what was going on in the year 2020. And everything that had happened, the lockdowns, the pandemic, everything just came at me at once. Now, maybe someone else would have failed at this point. Someone else would have buckled at this emotion. Someone else would have just given up. Hell, many people do. It's possible many people did. But I try to appreciate the bad parts of life almost as much as the good. Because you can't have one without the other. Without darkness, there could be light, all of those philosophical sayings, but they're true. So, if nothing else, the bad parts of our lives, the darkest and fearful parts, if nothing else, will teach us something. There's never failures, there's just lessons. So I tried to learn from this. I tried to go deeper and figure out what these people were feeling and why. But the deeper I went, the more that I felt. And it just got deeper and darker, and eventually I didn't care why. I didn't care about anything. I felt nothing. So I had to practically swim my way back to the surface. It was like an ocean. And when I was able to think again, I was able to realize that these emotions were powerful. It's sort of like, it's hard to explain, but School of Rock was powerful because of the music. It's uplifting, it's hopeful, it's fun. This was the exact opposite, but that doesn't make it weak. Bad emotions have almost as much power as good. You just have to know how to use it. So I bottled this all up within myself. I let all of these emotions flood that hallway, and it flooded my mind, and it just built up within me. And eventually, when I couldn't hold it anymore, I forced it out. I had no idea what this was going to do, if anything, but it was my only option. I mean, I didn't really have anything else to try. I couldn't reach anything. I was in just a sea of black with a noose, and the only thing I had was in my head. So that's what I did. I tried something. I had to try something. I couldn't just give up. I heard Mullins scream. And suddenly I just woke up. And suddenly I woke up. And I looked up. And I looked around. And I was in Times Square. I was in New York City. Still. And I was laying on, you know those red stairs that are by the tickets counter for like those half-price Broadway tickets? I was there. I was laying on the red stairs, and I looked up, and I sat up, and I looked around. And it was the most surreal thing. I'd been through a lot. I'd been through a show that I could, like, I was suddenly nearsighted or farsighted. I could never figure out the difference, but I was like blind to everything. I'd been through things that could talk into my head. I've been through things that can control me. I've been through using music as sound waves to break reality, and I've been through a gigantic ocean of sadness and despair while a noose hung around my neck. But this was so surreal, because New York City was empty.